So it's time to talk about a disturbing trend I've started to notice in American politics. That being taking the advice of former war criminals, or in some cases worse, seriously. So I went through and I found two stories of this happening, both from the last week. The first one, Henry Kissinger says that a nuclear first strike on North Korea is tempting. Now, if you do not know who Henry Kissinger is, he was the Secretary of State under Ford, as well as the National Security Advisor under Ford and before the Nixon. Henry Kissinger also contributed to 3 genocides, including a genocide in Cambodia, due to a large amount of bombing. The official reason he gave for the bombing was to stop communists. Meanwhile, that ended up helping install the brutal communist dictator Pol Pot. So, whoops on that. Of course, some will still defend Kissinger, saying he has won a Nobel Peace Prize for supposedly solving Vietnam, until you realize that his policies escalated Vietnam for half a decade. And of course, his idea is just in general atrocious. So he wants to do a nuclear first strike on North Korea, but that's not going to stop them from releasing their nukes on South Korea, which is one of our allies? That just doesn't make any sense. And for that matter, if we nuke them, that would only escalate tensions even more. And when you look at how we do have quite a few allies, especially in that Asian region, then, next thing you know, they may also try hitting Japan, or Guam is pretty close to them. They've actually come close to hitting that a few times. Etc., etc. But Henry Kissinger does not care about that. Meanwhile, no articles, or really at least very few, have mentioned Henry Kissinger's crimes against humanity that he has committed over his 94 years of life. The other one is from apparently now foreign policy expert, former President George W. Bush, who says that there is now a good amount of proof that Russia meddled in our election. I can just imagine Karl Rove is sitting there going, yeah, and good thing we never did that. Yeah. Oh my god. One, there is not a good amount of proof. The most that we've been able to find is that Russia influenced the election by hacking the DNC email server in 2016. That is not the same as meddling or rigging. Okay? But even then, let's look at what apparent now foreign policy expert George W. Bush did when he was president. He claimed that Iraq worked with Al-Qaeda to commit 9/11. That was wrong. He claimed that Iraq had WMDs, including nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, and, this is my favorite, an anthrax bomb. Colin Powell, his Secretary of State, even went to Congress with a flower to just say, yeah, they have anthrax. Turns out they had none of those. The only chemical weapons that were present in Iraq when we invaded them were ones that his Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, sold under an administration where his daddy was vice president. Not only that, but he said taking out Saddam Hussein would end all terrorism in the Middle East in 2003. It did not. He even admitted this in his second term and said that we needed to stay in Iraq because we took out Saddam Hussein. So this man's apparently a foreign policy expert, and that's not even getting into the torture he did, as well as the many acts he did that violated the Geneva Convention of 1929. So, because of all of this, 1921, not 29. No, I was right the first time, it was 29. So, because of all of this, we're now supposed to trust this man on foreign policy advice? And I don't care that he's suddenly anti-Donald Trump. He was still an atrocious president and still atrocious on foreign policy, and not someone who I think should be trusted at all. But that's the trend in the United States right now. Our war criminals who prop up dictators, who cause dictatorships, who commit crimes of war, who kill innocent civilians. May I remind you, minimum 200,000 innocent Iraqis were killed during the war. All of that is fine as long as you did it in the name of America. And we're even going to write articles on you when you say something later on and ignore your horrendous crimes against humanity. I'm Ephrom, and good night.